Hello and welcome to today's episode of Platinum Talks Wealth. Emmy-nominated journalist Jennifer Rogers Markwell changed gears in her television career when she realized the need to help women make sense of investing. She regularly hosts educational workshops to empower women and others to take charge of their financial future. Now, join your host, Platinum Wealth Management President Jennifer Rogers Markwell, as she leads us into the world of money memories, money infidelities, and how these can mold our relationship with our personal finances as adults. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, and thanks for joining us on the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast. It's Jennifer Rogers Markwell, and today we're joined by Vanessa Mitera. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
I am so happy to be here. I'm so just honored to be a part of your podcast. It's so incredible what you're doing in the lives of so many, shifting so many mindsets. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I always ask, tell us all about who you are and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so I am in Omaha, Nebraska, and really this area I feel like influenced a lot of who I am and how I got to be. But I am a mom first and foremost. And then I have my husband, who is my high school sweetheart, and he is a business owner as well. And so I think that really helps me thrive kind of in this space of being a business owner as well. I'm a brand and market strategist. And I really had this. I feel like we're all kind of led to certain areas of our business through, past experiences or, our skills and whatnot. But really, I found such joy in working with businesses. And I saw a huge need for wanting to integrate kind of like this life. I don't like to use the word balance because I don't really believe that there is such a thing necessarily.
Totally agree. That's a hard one. We've
Yeah.
we've struggled with that too, ironically, using the word balance because I mean it's a lifestyle ultimately, right?
Yep.
You're living it, if you have a business, you are living it 24 hours a day. So it
Yes.
becomes more of a lifestyle than a balance because a balance it's tough, right? It's
It
tough.
is. Yes. And I saw such a need for wanting to find a way to prioritize. So I guess the way that I view it is you're prioritizing certain areas of your life a little bit more than others. And I think that, when you're in business, sometimes it can be really hard to integrate your values with your business and find time for family. And when you're a mom, I think that it's a little bit different as well because there's this level, no matter how hard, at least I try to fight it, there's this guilt surrounding, I'm devoting more time to being a mom than I am in my business or vice versa. And I truly believe that that's not how business was meant to be. It's not this constant fight with one another. And really, I just saw this gap in bridging your values. So for me, that's my faith into my business and creating something that was more of a holistic approach. And so I work with high-end brands and we do their brand and market strategy. I do that in more of a holistic approach. But I saw this need of wanting to integrate it on a deeper level and work with women to try to find a way to, integrate their faith, their family, and their business in a way that honored it. So what I like to say is you don't have to sacrifice what is sacred to you as you're building something of significance. And so, I stepped into that and I really love that. And we built Eden and Empire, which is a global community. And so we really focus on that end of things. But, I have my hand in that. And then, like I said, my husband is a business owner and his is completely separate. He's in hardscapes, but we really just try to integrate as much as we can of still having that thing outside of being, spouses or parents to have, a business, something that fills our own. So,
Do you feel like that kind of, and balance is not the word, right? We've
mhm.
discovered balance is not the word. The integration rather comes from a place of sometimes a challenge of like wanting that perfection in every avenue, right? To be the best mom, to be the best business
Yeah.
owner, to be the best person, to take the best care of yourself ultimately at the end of the day. Do you
Mhm.
feel like there's a tie with that also with like imposter syndrome?
I definitely believe that is so. I know personally I struggle with that a lot in feeling like I want all areas to be very well rounded, but then also feeling like that guilt, like I said, sets in as a
Yeah.
mom where you're like, oh, I'm devoting too much time to my business. It's requiring more energy than what I'm able to give you in this season, or vice versa. And I think that a lot of it feels like maybe I'm not the best mom, so I need to step up in this area, or I'm not doing well in my faith, so I need to step up. So it's kind of like this constant trying to one up yourself in a sense. And I think there's a way to do it healthy for sure, but I think it does a little bit stem from that imposter syndrome, or just wanting that level of perfectionism in a sense. I don't think I've ever really thought about it in that way, but I think that's a nice analogy to kind of put behind it.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you, right? There's definitely areas where certain seasons, like you had said, that you're stronger in areas than others, right? Your focus is different depending on what's going on and what that looks like in your life and your business and your profession. But I feel for me specifically, like I'm always a work in progress. You know,
Mhm.
like I'll never have this mastered. I'm always learning as I'm going, and I'm always a work in progress. But it's a lot sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely can be. I think it's a lot of just that internal uh, thing that you place on yourself, because
Hmm.
most of the time your kids aren't noticing those things, or within your business it's a lot of what you perceive it to be. And I think that most often it's just this internal battle that you face within yourself to just say, okay, well, it probably things probably are more aligned than what I actually am giving myself credit for.
And a good reminder to give yourself some grace,
Yes.
especially in those moments, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're always our own worst critics on lots of things, whether that be how you look, how you act, how things are perceived. When you do a speaking engagement, you're like, ah, I could have done better. What could I have
Right.
done better? Right. But at the end of the day, like giving yourself some grace and remembering to give yourself some grace, I think is so, so important.
Yes. Yes.
Well, how did you get on this path to doing what you're doing? I mean, did you kind of always grow up and think, yeah, that's what I want to do? Or how did you end up where you're at now?
I think so. Gosh, it's so many layers deep, and I always kind of struggle with how far back to go. But originally, I was, when I got out of school, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I That was what I had my heart set on, and then it quickly changed my senior year. My parents divorced, and it was really just my mom and I. And my mom had me extremely young, so her and I really grew up together. But I was the oldest of four siblings at the time. Now I have five, but four siblings at the time, and our world just completely shifted. And I was there. My dad kind of went on his own path for a little bit, amidst the divorce and everything. And so it was really my mom and I. And I'm in high school, and I'm like, how am I going to juggle helping my mom and balancing school and going into college? And so I would take online classes and try to do that and work two jobs. And I quickly realized that path just wasn't going to be sustainable for me unless I wanted to be in school indefinitely
Forever.
at the rate
Yeah.
that I was going. And so, I pivoted so many different times, and in healthcare, there's so many different routes that you can go. And so I would explore one, and all the while still taking classes that were related to healthcare, but really trying to find what path suited me best. And I found one that I loved, and they only took 10 in our area, ten applicants. And so I kept getting waitlisted year after year. And I was like, I just can't live my life like this. This isn't, it's being placed on hold. And so I had this amazing job opportunity that came into my life, and I was going to make more with my corporate job than I would ever with my degree and student loans. And I was like, you know what? I might as well just take this. And I did compliance investigation. So I did like terrorist financing, money laundering, so different than what I do right now. But I think it really kind of set the stage for my analytical, or my like that logistical background, for me to kind of implement that into the creative side as well. So I did that for about 10 years, had my oldest really found a love for documenting all of his younger years through photography. So I did that. And then, so I kind of had that on the side for a little bit. We had my youngest. I have only two boys, so my youngest, and he was the one that we were kind of iffy. We were like, I don't know if we want to have more kids. We were really set on just having one. And then we were filled with the desire to have another. And the one thing I said is like, that's fine if we have another. I just know I can't be a stay-at-home mom. And so, I had this amazing corporate job, incredible benefits, and this is post COVID. And I'm getting ready to come back from maternity leave, and I'm calling the daycare, and they're like, oh, yeah, we actually don't have them on the wait list anymore. And I was like, what do I do? It's a year out, really, anywhere. And thankfully, I was working at home, but I was like, I can't do this. This isn't sustainable for me to work with an infant, and it's not what I want to do long term. So I prayed, and immediately I was filled with stay at home. And I was like, that is the one. I know that's not for me because that's the one thing I didn't want is to stay at home. And so I did that for about 3 months. Um, and all the while is like, I can't stay in this realm of motherhood photography. So I pivoted, and I had prior experience with branding and marketing just kind of over the years, and started working with businesses, found a really huge need outside of just the photography for more of a holistic approach. And so we really take their businesses and we get them to premium branding. And it just grew. It grew. And that same daycare that didn't have a spot called me 3 months later and was like, we have a spot available. And so it just kind of has taken off from there. But I like to say that it really wasn't something that I dreamt of. It just kind of found me. And it's been incredible, this journey from, going from not knowing what I wanted to do to doing what I'm doing and it growing so quickly it's been amazing. So,
It's crazy when you're on the path that you're supposed to be on that you don't even realize that how things unfold. I
right.
always use the river analogy, right? You can be in a river and you can try to fight it and go upstream, but you're challenged the whole time. You
Hmm.
can stand in the river, stand where you're at, and just have the water keep hitting your back, which is also not a comfortable place to be. Or you can kind of go with it and see what unfolds in front of you. And many times it's way more beautiful and amazing than you could have ever imagined for yourself.
Yeah.
In my own personal life, same thing, right? Like, I worked in television. I thought I'd always work in that realm. I was Emmy nominated. And then my grandpa passed, and we found ourselves picking up the pieces from that. My grandparents raised me. My mom was also super, super young when she had me. So my grandparents were mom and dad. And literally going in front of different advisors at different, institutions, and they didn't have a lot, but what they had was spread around, and
Mhm.
never had the warm fuzzy feeling that anyone cared or wanted to do what was in my grandma's best interest. And she's like, if we're going through this, imagine how many other women are going through this. And at
Yeah.
that moment, I said, okay, I'll learn everything I can, and had a huge pivot in my life right into a career path I never would have put myself in, or did I really know that truly existed. And here I
Mhm.
am, 15 years later, and really feeling like I'm making a difference in, doing what we're doing, and doing it in a heart-centric manner. Like, it's such a gift.
Yeah. I love the beauty of oftentimes it's not the path that you envision yourself on that ends up being really where you stay. There's a lot of times where people just are so set after school and they're like, I'm going to be this, and it works out, but
Mhm.
it's not. I think it's just a combination of all of these experiences that you have in life that kind of direct you into the area where you're really meant to be, where you find that joy. Because that's the thing that I feel like in school that I wish that we could do a little bit better on is getting that experience to really to help you to find that space where you flourish and thrive in. But I think a lot of times it's just you have to live it.
You are listening to the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.
Hey, it's Jennifer. I wanted to take a quick break to remind you that you are worthy to have a seat at the table when it comes to money and your finances. Both me and my team at Platinum Wealth Management, want to meet you where you are, whether you're starting out, starting over, or have been investing for years. Reach out to us at platinumwealth.net or call us at 775-717-0001. We'd be honored to help.
And now, back to the podcast.
You have to live it and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, it's life experience, and then what curveballs, get in the mix too, and what nudges you in different directions. So
Right.
I feel like life can make things uncomfortable when you're not on the path that you're supposed to be on.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah,
It has a way of closing that door for you. So,
100%.
yeah.
100%. Well, another thing we talk about on the podcast are money memories. What's a money memory that you have from childhood or younger years that helped mold your relationship to money now as an adult?
So, kind of going back to my story, I would say one of the things that I really feel like changed my relationship with money was my senior year when my parents split up, because we went from, thinking everything was okay to, in a matter of months, my parents split up. Our house was evicted. We were evicted from our home. My car that I was driving, I had a brand new car that my parents gave me. Ended up giving to my mom because her car was repossessed. Like everything happened. And so quickly my mom and I had to find another space to live in. And I think it was, I don't fully know the mindset that my dad was in at that time, because he was the one that managed the money. And as you go through life and you have kids and you're married, you learn that it's not so black and white. But I think there was so many things that he was going through that financially he wasn't in a good place. And, when they split up, it was just finding out about all those things and finding out about, the state of it all at once. I think it really led me to kind of have this mindset of, I never want that to happen, for two things. My dad was the breadwinner. And so my mom, she worked a few days a week, and she was home with my brother and sisters to make sure throughout the week that, things were taken care of. She took care of the home and she worked, as she could. But of course, when he's the breadwinner, when you leave, it's like you have to pick up these pieces. And for myself, I was like, I don't ever want to be in that situation where I'm fully relying so much on my husband. And then if something were to change, I'm stuck. And then the other aspect of it is that I didn't ever want to find myself in that situation where we were scrambling, to really pick up the pieces in every area of our life. And so I think that memory was a core piece of, me wanting to be the best that I could in school and say, I want to make good money. So I never find myself in this scenario, or even how my husband and I are now, because he grew up with me in that time. We were in high school together. And so, um, thankfully he's good with money, even a little bit more so than I am. And so I think it's just that mindset of, we just want to make sure that we're secure. It doesn't, whatever that dollar amount looks like could be, it could be whatever, but we just want to make sure that at minimum these things are taken care of, and that we don't have to worry about that. So I think that was probably one of the more core memories for me that really trickled into every aspect of how I viewed money initially. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that really goes hand in hand with financial infidelities.
yeah.
What's a financial infidelity that you either witnessed or you experienced that you think others listening could learn from?
I think that would probably be, I think just the extent of the situation that my parents found themselves in was, at least for me, not knowing. Not every parent, of course, is going to disclose every aspect to their kids, but I think a lot of it was just fully not knowing the extent of what was going on in their situation. My mom didn't fully know, and I think that kind of set the stage for, everything else that happened afterwards. Thankfully, my husband and I are really transparent about it. But that to me was probably, it probably made it to where, I'm the one that keeps track of every area of like our finances. And so I think it really stemmed from, I don't want to be in a situation where I don't know where we're at, because if I don't know where we're at, I can't handle it. I can't, help the situation. And I think too, when you're the only person holding the stress of, okay, this is the financial situation that we find ourselves in, but you're not disclosing that with your significant other and you're having to keep that, I think that does a lot to you mentally as well.
Yeah, that you brought up a good point. I mean, that's one thing, even for me, like meeting with clients, when it's a coupling situation, I always recommend that both of them are present. It may not be, something they love or their forte, talking about money or investments or strategies or what their goals are. But I mean, even with my grandparents' situation, I mean, my grandma did, things financially in the household and she balanced a checkbook and she did different things. But at the end of the day, she had no idea what he had spread around. Was it in a CD? Where was it? Like, what was going on, at the end of the day? And that's the last moment when you're mourning the loss of someone, trying to figure that out. Or, like you had said, when there's a divorce that's happening, or, you know what I mean? There's something tragic going on that you're trying to pick up the pieces in that moment, in addition to taking care of yourself and your emotions and, your kids or whatever's around you.
Right, right. That could be difficult to try to,
Yeah.
navigate that piece of it. I think there's a level of, so because my husband and I are both business owners, there's a level of, it's not infidelity, but there's a level of, I don't know everything that he's spending his money on and what's in his bank account. I mean, I could look, but there's a level of, I trust that you know, are making the right decisions, and same with me, he has that. But I think that there's a level of, you hope that your significant other is being upfront with what's going on. But I think that that's kind of the closest thing I could say now as an adult would be, I just don't have a handle on everything, all the workings of like the bills he has coming out with his business, and certain things that, he goes and buys for write-offs and all of that. But I think that yeah, it can take a toll if you're doing it entirely alone.
Yeah. And I mean, each partnership seems to be different from what I've seen from, clients as well. Some will overlap. I mean, at least the transparency, the communication, I think are the two big factors to always be a part of, regardless. Some will have accounts, like I said, that overlap. Some will have a joint account together for bills. Some will have separate businesses, much like yourself and your husband, where obviously those are separate accounts as well. But it's really, I think, at the end of the day, having that communication, talking through, having an understanding holistically what's going on together. So at no
Right.
point are you kind of like, oh, I had no idea, all of this was happening or not happening.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So as we begin to wrap the conversation, I always like to ask, what are tips and or tricks that you use to utilize money differently in your own household?
I think the thing that my husband and I do a little bit differently is it's funny how, as I was growing up, I had this tight hold on money, and it's important. It can facilitate so many things, but I think I changed my mindset around what that meant. Rather than looking at a dollar amount, I looked at the things that what was tied to that. Why did I want to make a certain dollar amount? So, like as a business owner, I think it's so hard because everything we do is tied to revenue and the bottom line and profit margin, all the separate things as business owners. And I would say within the last couple of years, tried to really reframe how I approach it. And I think that to me, at least, true wealth comes not necessarily from how much money is in your bank, but like what does that bring you? Like what is that peace of mind that it can bring you? What is that, you could have all this money sitting in the bank, but what does that mean to you? I would rather, for me, wealth could mean us having a vacation home, but the reason behind that is because we're first generation, you know, wealth within our family, and we have a home that we can bring our family to for summer memories and vacations and stuff like that. So to me, I think the thing that we want to instill in our boys is that yes, it's great, that we're able to do things, but what does that mean to you? We don't want money just to have the money, but what are we doing with it? And obviously instilling in the value that it's hard work, right? Like even though, we're able to pay for certain things, that doesn't necessarily mean that we will. And so I think just the kind of the way that we approach money, I think is a little bit it's not more about the dollar amount, it's that what can we do with the money that we have. So,
I think with memories, for us at holidays, right? So we clearly are very blessed. We don't need stuff. We can buy our own stuff potentially, but we do have a lot of stuff. But for us, it's really leaning into memories, and I feel like that is priceless, right? Whether that be a trip, whether that be an experience, I think that is for us as a family really kind of where we see the value of money ultimately, right? It's a factor, it's a tool that we need in what we do, obviously. But that's our why, is to be able to spend that quality time together, to be able to make those memories, those priceless memories, that are so important. I mean, do we need another sweater? Probably not, right? But at the end of the day, would it be really cool to have a trip and spend that quality time together? I think that's priceless.
right, exactly. So I think that's where we it's more focused on the memory aspect of it. That's one of the things, like you bring up holidays, but I try to really encourage my parents to say, I'd rather you buy them an experience rather than,
Yes.
another toy.
Yes, yes. And then for me too, it's the pictures. Looking back on
Mm.
those pictures and having a reminder of just those moments, right? Like those memories. Like we do so much and time flies by so fast, even faster now it seems. But looking back and being like, oh, I remember that exact moment. I remember, eating that ice cream and I remember being on that beach or I remember whatever that is. And it just
Yeah.
brings so much joy.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for making time this morning to be here.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Thank you for allowing me to share my story, and it's been fun.
Well, thank you. And hopefully those of you listening and or watching will join us on our next Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, Platinum Talks Wealth, please subscribe and share. For more information about Jennifer Rogers Markwell or Platinum Wealth Management, please visit www.platinumwealth.net. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Platinum Wealth Management.